I gotta tell you, I am a big fan of the cover to Is Ted OK number 4. Big fan. Huge, in fact. In fact, as you'll see momentarily, I actually keep coming up with more and more reasons that I like it. It's one of my favorites of the year. So in this issue, we get a big revelation about Ted and kind of what his deal is. But we also spend a lot of time with the Noah character. Noah is like a super rich trillionaire type who seems to just want to watch the world burn. And yeah, that's Noah on the cover here. Dave Chisholm does this cover, as he does pretty much everything else on Is Ted OK? But yeah, I'm a sucker for facial expressions, facial language, and what we get on this cover really tells us so much about this character's mindset and what he's thinking and what his general demeanor is. The face is just so punchable, and he's so unlikable. How unlikable is he? He looks like the Joker, Lord Farquaad, and Jay Leno were somehow able to have a less endearing child via threesome. He looks like the personification of the mold I found in my carton of strawberries the other day. He looks like he went to his hairstylist and said, "Give me the Adolf Hitler, but zhuzh it up a little bit." He looks like a serial killer from the 80s who just smelled an anxious fart from his next victim. He looks like he just saw the series finale to the original Dexter show. He looks like the nephew of a Republican congressman who tells single moms how much money they should be able to live off per year. 6 jokes in a row, people. See, that is how you kick off a month. Happy June. Only the Savage Are Left number 1 seems to kick off a story about whether things like altruism and morality and heroics have a place in a world that has largely left such things behind. That feels like a relevant train of thought in an era where a UFC-style octagon is being erected on the front lawn of the White House. So this story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where a virus has spread that turns humans into monsters, basically. And our main character, Ryder, has to journey across the post-apocalyptic wasteland to save a woman he loves. There's a decent amount of talk in this story about our animalistic base instincts, like our ruthless survival of the fittest type instincts. That, of course, runs counterintuitive to our sort of higher instincts to be compassionate and kind and take care of one another. And I just think that's an interesting sort of allegorical look at where the world, America in particular, is right now. What kind of people, what kind of country do we want to be? Is there a place for someone who wants to be heroic in an environment like we live in right now? What does it mean to be a hero? Can you be a hero? What do you have to sacrifice to be a hero? There's a lot more depth to this story than you might guess at face value. Which was a very pleasant surprise, because when I originally saw the title, Only the Savage Are Left, I thought this was a post-apocalyptic story about Macho Man Randy Savage being the Earth's last surviving male and having to repopulate the world fueled only by an unlimited supply of Slim Jims. From an artistic standpoint, our team here does a great job of creating a ruthless post-apocalyptic monstery vibe. What's kind of interesting about the transformation process here is that it can be halted before you're completely a monster, so you have like half human, half monster hybrids walking around. That's kind of interesting. So yeah, for a variety of reasons, Only the Savage Are Left is one to watch going forward. With this new sort of tweaked Mighty Morphin Power Rangers book that Boom Studios started publishing this week with issue number 1, they've really given themselves an opportunity to tell stories that are fun and meaningful and meaty in an unprecedented way for the Power Rangers franchise, really. And that's one of the reasons why I was kind of holding my breath coming into this first issue, because I'm very particular about my Power Rangers comics. Some of you might remember that. It's just really easy to trigger me with details and continuity stuff, and I don't know, it would have been really easy for them to screw this issue up, as far as I'm concerned. Thankfully, that did not happen, and I'm relieved to tell you that what we get with this first issue is a good, solid start. Moves kind of quickly, but it's a good, solid start. So the way this series works is 10 years after the original 5 Power Rangers stopped being Power Rangers, Billy, the Blue Ranger, summons them all back to the command center to fight a new villain, Rita Rabiosa. But yeah, very fast-paced for my money first outing here. Almost a bare-bones outing as we get the Rangers together, we discuss what the problem is, and then we go right into the action. It's not a bad thing. So because the issue is formatted the way it is, we don't really have a lot of space or time to dive into who this new villain is, what the Rangers' individual lives are like, beyond some basic exposition, I guess. Although there is a moment early in the issue where we get something pretty big that ties into the once and always 30th anniversary special that aired a couple of years ago. Not going to tell you what it is, but if you know the franchise, your first guess is probably the right one. They did kind of tweak the costumes a little bit with the diamond design for this book. Did we need to do that? No. I mean, I always tend to err on the side of don't mess with the classics, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty harmless. But yeah, as a Power Rangers diehard, and a pretty finicky one sometimes, I was happy with what we got here. It was action-packed, it was inoffensive, and it was fun. And as I said, there's so much intrigue going forward and so many different things they could do. This is definitely one to watch if you are a Power Rangers fan. Gail Simone, the current author for Uncanny X-Men, putting out a boxing comic book was not really on my proverbial bingo card for 2026. But then again, a lot of things have happened in the last couple of years that weren't on said proverbial bingo card. And unlike a lot of those, this is pretty much a net positive. So this is The Ring, The Man Who Beat the Man, #1. So this is a book about an old school sort of boxing journalist teaming up with a young influencer as they follow these boxers who are gearing up for a big rematch, I believe. And then we also brush across the history of boxing in general in this book. I know little to nothing about boxing, or any real sports for that matter. I like pro wrestling, but that's not boxing. But I appreciate that this book kind of brings the subject matter to me. It's interesting to see some of the history behind boxing. I mean, we go back to, I think, 5000 BC in our opening scene here. And as a former journalist / journalism buff, I really dig the reporter-influencer dichotomy here. It feels fresh, and it's a nice way to get exposition and information to the reader. Incidentally, this book is affiliated with the long-running boxing magazine, The Ring. That's where the title comes from. That's kind of cool. I don't know how that influences things, but there it is. I'm not enamored with this book per se, but I did enjoy it. I'm open to coming back for another issue. I think what I like best about it is that it shows us that Gail Simone, who is primarily known for superhero comic books, I think, can be versatile enough to write a sports story as well, and that, these comic book writers aren't one-trick ponies, so to speak. Red Hulk rampages for America in Avengers Armageddon #1. By the way, you just know that Avengers Armageddon is going to be a movie title somewhere down the road. I mean, they've already done Endgame. They're going to do Doomsday this year. Armageddon is inevitable for the Avengers. But yeah, in this story, Latveria, the country that used to be ruled by Dr. Doom, is now ruled by Thaddeus Ross, the Red Hulk. And in this story, he kind of starts a global conquest to conquer the other countries of the world in the name of democracy and freedom. Very, very much American ideals. Now, if you're around my age hearing that, that might sound familiar. And that's because it kinda sorta was what George W. Bush was trying to do with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was kind of trying to bring American values into the Middle East, or at least that's part of what he was trying to do. And thematically, that's definitely on point for our author here, Chip Zdarsky. He's been talking about the war in Iraq with his run on Captain America, which has built up to this story. John Colton, the sort of proto-Captain America character he created, is an Iraq War veteran. You know, I haven't read any interviews or anything with Zdarsky where he talks about his feelings about the war in Iraq. But I guess I don't have to. I mean, they're kind of on display in these stories, Avengers Armageddon included, I think. Incidentally, the art here looks really great, suitably epic for a Marvel event comic. Red Hulk in particular comes out great, which is naturally what you would want to see here. But yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. You know, curiously, one of Marvel's more recent event comics, One World Under Doom, kind of looked at Trumpism and the Donald Trump effect. And now we have a story that's kind of looking at George W. Bush. I can only assume that next year Marvel's presidential collection will continue with a story allegorically looking at another president. Maybe Bill Clinton, where Captain America is involved in some kind of sex scandal at Avengers headquarters. You know, I'm joking, but that does kind of sound like an interesting concept, doesn't it? I don't know if it's as interesting or controversial as Captain America becoming a Nazi, but it's there. You know what's really starting to piss me off? AI. AI ruins things. It really does. Now, that topic has absolutely nothing to do with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 19, which is the comic book I'm here to talk to you about today, but, you know, the Ninja Turtles, from my vantage point, are kind of peripherally involved, and I'll tell you why. So as we've seen in previous issues, Tang Shen, the Turtles' mother, has returned from the land of the dead in human form, and now she's living with the Turtles and Splinter, and there's a big adjustment for her there, obviously. And the Turtles kind of show their mother New York City in this issue, and it pays off some of the interesting potential things that you can do with someone from feudal Japan in modern-day New York. You know, they show her the food, they take her on a roller coaster, that kind of stuff. Pharaoh Pei is our artist here. His stuff with the Ninja Turtles is always really good. The visual contrast between the human Tang Shen and these mutant turtles and the mutant rat is always interesting to look at. I am kind of worried, though, based on something that Shen says in this issue, that we're going to have some mommy abandonment issues going on with the Turtles here in the coming months. I don't have anything concrete to base that on, but I feel like the rift between mother and children and mother and husband is going to get wider. But anyway, back to AI. I recently came across this image. The Ninja Turtles in New York Knicks gear. You know, the Ninja Turtles are from New York City, of course, and the New York Knicks, I guess, are in the NBA Finals right now, so there's been some quirky fan art that's come out. But, you know, I looked at this image, and after my initial chuckle, I couldn't help but say to myself, is that AI? Like, is that an AI-generated image? I'm not accusing anyone. I don't have any direct knowledge of AI being used here. I'm just saying that it sucks that I have to ask myself that question about art in the modern era. You know, that I've always got to be suspicious now of whether AI was used on a given piece of art. I mean, I think those kinds of questions are necessary in an era where we have AI, It just kind of sucks that AI has made the world a little bit more cynical in that regard, and I guess taken some of the wonder out of art and human creation. AI sucks. That's the bottom line. Pass it on. M1 Monster Racing League #1 is one of my favorite first issues of the year. It's fantastic, quite frankly. In fact, it's so fantastic that I am willing to use one of my worst, most hacky opening lines ever on this issue. Are you ready? You're not ready. Okay, here goes. There's no McDonald's in M1 Monster Racing #1, but ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Hey, you can't be mad at me. Okay, I told you it was going to be bad. That's how life works, right? But yeah, this issue is about a girl named Dev who moves to Tokyo and gets involved in a street racing league. And as we learn by the end of the issue, there's an otherworldly, monstrous type element to the league. This is a beautiful issue, penciled by Jay Lee and colored by June Chung. You know, I've never been to Tokyo or Japan. I'd love to go. But their art here is really inviting. It really draws you in. And frankly, their art is worth the price of admission on its own. Like, if this were a silent issue, it would still be great. But, you know, I'm intrigued by the writing team we have here of Robert and Lily Wyndham. Apparently, we've got a grown man here in Robert Wyndham and his preteen, or maybe by now teenage daughter, Lily. They've written together before. I've never read any of their work, but if this is any indication, I mean, sign me up. I think my favorite part of the writing in this issue is the Maurice character. She's like the quick best friend type character. She's immediately drawn to Dev, wants to be her best friend, all that stuff. I just found her really endearing. I don't know, maybe it's because my daughters are both school-aged, although they're much younger than Dev is. And I like the idea of, you know, girlfriends coming together. But yeah, just the first issue of M1 Monster Racing League is a tremendous achievement. I think it's supremely creative. I think it has a lot of potential. It was a rare instant add to my pull list, and if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend you do so. I'm pretty sure that an actual child would make a better first trillionaire for the world than the man-child that actually just earned that title. I believed that coming into the $1 Trillion Kid #1, but boy, now I really believe it. Yeah, did you see that? Elon Musk is the world's first trillionaire. You know, this book is already pretty timely and relevant, but I don't think it intended to be quite that timely and relevant. So this book is about a 13-year-old boy named Tommy Townsend, who has just become the world's first trillionaire. He's like an inventor type. But his mother, father, and sister went missing at some point, and he's reasonably certain that the Unbelievables know where they are. The Unbelievables are like various otherworldly wonders of the world spread across the country. And now Tommy and his robot butler Sterling are on a journey across the country to meet various Unbelievables in a 4-part crossover story that's designed to expand into a new section of the Ghost Machine multiverse. Tommy's very likable, which is of critical importance. The effect with him is kind of like what if Willy Wonka had Bruce Wayne money. The Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, not the Johnny Depp one. That's an important distinction. And one of the reasons Tommy is so likable is because we keep hearing that he wants to make the world more fun. He wants to make the world a better place for the people in it. But yeah, you like him. You're rooting for him. And certainly the art here by Stefano Simone, I think is how you pronounce that, is really good. The colors are really great. As much as any story I've seen in recent memory, this $1 Trillion Kid story feels like a product of the times it was created in. It feels like John Q. Public, the everyman, is kind of coming to realize that when rich people get to a certain level of wealth, they stop caring about other people and trying to make the world a better place and sort of strictly focus on acquiring more wealth for themselves and their organizations. And this story sort of poses the question, hey, what if a really rich person had the wonder and kindness of a child, or in this case, a young teen? It sort of makes you wonder what money does to people, like morally and chemically, at a certain point. You know what I mean? Either way, it looks like we've got an adventure ahead of us with this crossover, and I'm invested. I'm looking forward to seeing what we get from here.
Women do not like it when you lie to them. There's your life lesson for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Probably true for men too, but boy, it's really true for women. I think especially in romantic partners, women just really place a high value on transparency and honesty and loyalty. This is a lesson that Simon Pure learns the hard way in Redcoat number 18. By the way, I'm still camping here in South Dakota in the shadow of Mount Rushmore, actually. What more fitting a place to review a Redcoat issue? But yeah, in this issue, Simon has to finally come clean to his wife about the fact that he is an immortal British soldier from the Revolutionary War. And his wife has a reaction. What she does with that information is fine as far as I'm concerned, from a writing standpoint, but I don't know, the pacing is a little bit interesting to me. I don't know if I would have had the reveal at the beginning of the story and then her decision at the end. I don't know if doing it all in one issue was the right thing to do. I don't know. I'm a little split on that. Either way, the reaction that we get from the wife and what she ultimately does is understandable. She doesn't come off like a heel in the equation, and that's ultimately what you'd want, I think. I also like that we're dealing with the cult of the founding fathers again. Einstein, Benedict Arnold, and Simon are working against them in this issue as well. They were one of the more interesting parts of those early Redcoat issues. But yeah, I'm going to see Mount Rushmore later today, and boy, I wonder what people would think if they knew what George Washington was really like, at least according to Redcoat. It's Absolute Superman number 20, and stop putting armor on Superman. What, do I have to say this once a year or something? Is that what it is? So in this issue, the battle continues. It's Superman, Hawkman, and John Henry Irons, Steel, against King Shazam, or Black Adam, as he's known in the regular DC universe. It's a pretty good fight. The art, at the very least, is beautiful. Rafa Sandoval, one of my favorites in all of comics right now. But, and I'm not going to tell you what it looks like or how it comes to be, but by the end of the issue, Superman is armored up. And what's more, this is not the first time that Absolute Superman has been armored up. They did that about a year ago, I think. And yeah, I feel like I've had to say this at least once a year since I started doing this, but having Superman put armor on is redundant at best, and at worst, it makes him look like a wimp. I think I understand the psychology behind it. It's like the bad guy is so bad that even Superman needs extra protection against him. But it's like, bullets already bounce off Superman's chest. Like, what exactly does he need armor for? Putting Superman in armor yet again was a decidedly lame thing to do in a book that is usually not lame at all. So hopefully they get this armor thing out of their system once and for all here.